Hey everyone, it's Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. The Timberwolves, the Timberwolves beat the Warriors, but is there still a little bit of consternation among Wolves fans, or is this just drama that the media is trying to drum up with the Timberwolves versus the Utah Jazz? We'll talk about that next, coming up on the Ron Johnson Show.
Locked On Sports Minnesota podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. Now the Ron Johnson Show. On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. He's played with them, hung out with them, and grown up with all the big names in Minnesota sports. They're hanging out with Ron Johnson. It's the Ron Johnson Show on the Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. And it starts now.
Hey everyone, it's Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show. And I know your brackets are busted. Let's be honest. My brackets are busted. Miami, did you think? No, sure didn't. San Diego State, maybe. I know Reggie Wayne might have had Miami, but come on now. The rest of these teams in the Final Four, Florida Atlantic. I don't think a lot of you were picking any of these teams. So head over to FanDuel.com/locked on to get started today, just to make every moment more. Why? Because your parlays can still keep going. Even though your bracket's done, you can still be a part of these parlays on FanDuel.com/locked on to make every moment more and to get started today. Well, I got to bring Sam Ekstrom to the show, my producer. And Sam, I did that wrong. Sorry. Well, that was more natural. I should have said this episode is brought to you by, but I didn't do that part. You think it matters?
No, I thought it was fine.
Okay. All right, here we go. 3, 2. And as I bring my producer, Sam Ekstrom, to the show, Sam, we have to talk about Minnesota basketball. And it's like this is a roller coaster. And this is like, so I'm down in Disney, of course, and I've been riding a lot of roller coasters. And as I'm riding them, I started to imagine and I understood exactly what the Wolves fans feel like. And this is a roller coaster that there's ups and downs. You get nauseous. You're throwing up a little bit, maybe even in your mouth because you can't throw. Hopefully you don't throw up on the kids when you're riding. But this is the part of the ride where you can see the end, but you really don't know if it's the end. Because, that's how roller coasters do. Like I did the Harry Potter, and I don't want to ruin it for people that haven't done it yet, but there's a Harry Potter motorcycle roller coaster. And there's a secret, because I'm not a Harry Potter fan. I haven't watched the movie, Sam. I don't know if you have, but there's like a secret within this ride that you don't know is about to happen. And you think the ride is over, and then boom, something happens. And it's dramatic. It's drastic. People scream, and then the ride keeps going. And so I think this is where the Timberwolves are at in their season. This is the part of the season where, is there a trap door? Is this just the end? Are we going to go upside down again? Are we going to hit a big drop? Because I can't see what's up ahead. Like I'm in the back, so I don't know what's in the front. I can't see. And when you think about this, and this is the reason why I say you got Karl-Anthony Towns, you got Anthony Edwards, you got Rudy Gobert finally back. But then, of course, to pay off the tease, there's some drama out there. Walker Kessler, he was the guy that was traded to the Jazz from the Timberwolves. Well, he has more blocks right now than Rudy Gobert in less minutes played. And could that be like, okay, do we need defense? Yeah. So could we have used Walker Kessler? Yeah. Now, here's where I go with this, though. There's two thoughts. Maybe Walker Kessler's younger, faster, moving better, and he's playing better. Better system, Jazz. But the Jazz system was set up for Rudy Gobert to have a ton of blocks. So maybe it's just the way their system fits, funneling guys into the bigs. You sit around, you just get blocks. Also, people are saying Walker Kessler, nobody knows him. So people are just going to go at him, not understanding the kid is actually good. People know Rudy Gobert, so it's a little bit more fear. It's a little bit more strategic. Like, instead of going up for layup, maybe I'll hit him with a step back, crossover, sidestep, jumper, instead of just trying to go right at him. There's a lot to that. And so I honestly say maybe the Timberwolves could have made it with Walker Kessler, Karl-Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, and still had all those first-round picks to continue to build. If they were going to get rid of D'Lo anyway, then they would have had Mike Conley Jr. with this team, with Anthony Edwards. Maybe instead of, what they did, you go get a scorer like James Theus had brought up, go get somebody like CJ McCullough or somebody who can handle a whole game like Anthony Edwards. You put two scores together. But at the end of the day, the Timberwolves beat the Warriors, and so let's not. I mean, it was by 3. The Warriors are a good team. We know they're 4-time champions because Klay Thompson tells everybody every time he loses or anytime anybody talks, he puts up the 4. We won 4 championships. We get it. We won 4 championships, but the Timberwolves found a way to beat them. And in that game, Naz Reid was the leading scorer, and so is that? I mean, again, you don't want anybody to have to get hurt in order for other guys to step up, but is this maybe a sign of what the playoffs are going to look like? The fact that Karl-Anthony Towns might have to come out, the fact that Rudy Gobert might need to come out, because I like Naz Reid with Karl-Anthony Towns a little bit better if you're going to run and gun than I do with Rudy Gobert, because Rudy Gobert is not a scorer. Naz Reid clearly is, so you can put Naz Reid in there with Karl-Anthony Towns, Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards, and then one other guard. And I think that's a team that can go with the Warriors. It can go with and beat the Lakers if they have to play them in the play-in game. They can beat the Thunder. And so that's where I think the Timberwolves stand right now is how quick, because 7 games left. How quick can these guys get back? Karl-Anthony Towns for sure, back to conditioning basketball shape, because you can control the minutes now. In the playoffs, you can't really control these minutes. You just got to go with the flow and play as much as they need you. But that's my take on this, man. I think the Timberwolves are a good team. I think they can win. But how can this team come together this short amount of time, and they haven't played together all season?
Yeah, the first 2 games of Karl-Anthony Towns kind of worked out exactly as you would hope. Naz Reid was more productive, he was more efficient, and he played more minutes. But then Karl-Anthony Towns comes in at the end and delivers the big moment. Against Atlanta, it was the 2 free throws. Against Golden State, it was the 2 threes. And he delivers in the clutch. I think he's actually fit back in a little more nicely than I would have assumed. So that's great to see. And Naz Reid has become a staple. Like, you can't take him out of the rotation. And I would hope that Naz continues to get those minutes. And if it happens at the expense of Gobert, I'm honestly okay with that, Ron. Like, I watched the entire 4th quarter last night. I was living and dying with every play. And Rudy Gobert, maybe he alters some shots on the defensive end or he keeps guys out of the lane. So I can't overstate that, but he's a liability on offense. Like, he struggles to catch the ball in traffic. He made a sloppy pass to Anthony Edwards. He couldn't get a rebound when they really needed it, like on the offensive glass. I just wasn't, I didn't enjoy watching him play basketball. I know he does some of the little things that go unnoticed, but I wowould much rather have Naz and Cat out there than Rudy when it comes to the 4th quarter of a big game.
Yeah, and I think we brought it up with the Purdue 7'4" guy. I mean, when you're that tall, like Rudy Gobert, you sacrifice a little bit of athleticism. Like, he's not as athletic as a Karl-Anthony Towns, who's a couple 2 inches shorter maybe or something like that. Maybe 3, because Karl-Anthony Towns might be lying about his height. Who knows? But, even go down to an Anthony Edwards, super athletic. A 6'8" guy like LeBron, really athletic. Like, when you get over 7 feet sometimes, you do sacrifice a little bit, and that's what Shaq brought up about shooting free throws. Like, that's just something he can't do. There's not a ton of Chet Holmgrens out there who, when they get in 7-foot territory, they're still super freaky athletic. And Victor Wembanyama, he's a liability. If Steph Curry switches off and you get Rudy Gobert on Steph Curry, he's a liability because he doesn't want to come out super far because he's going to get beat. And so I think that's the key. Naz Reid is a little bit more athletic. Can get around that stuff, can kind of stay with a guy like Steph. And again, Steph, we know he's older, so he's not what he used to be. But this is a team that I truly feel like can make noise in the playoffs. I truly feel like they have to continue to do what they're doing. And again, Cat staying out of foul trouble, like you said, in the 4th quarter, 2 big free throws, 2 big threes. That's the key. They didn't have that during the playoff run at points last year because he was in foul trouble. Like, they couldn't get him in to stay in the whole 4th quarter or to stay in the majority of the tough minutes because he was fouling out or he was coming out whining about being, 4 fouls and he's crying, then 5 fouls. Now he's really crying and now he's playing timid. He's not doing – and then he gets like a rebound foul. Like, that's just what happens. When you're overthinking everything, you get the dumb little fouls, and that's what Karl-Anthony Towns will be. But I'm excited for the rest of the show today, Sam. We got Blake Cashman, former Gopher linebacker, played for PJ Fleck, currently with the Texans. So has a lot to say about D'Amico Ryans, has a lot to say about PJ Fleck and the Roller Bowl culture. Not a guy recruited by PJ Fleck. So that's why I'm really excited about this one, because he was recruited by Jerry Kill. And people can say whatever they want about PJ versus Jerry Kill, but Blake Cashman is the one who can tell us what PJ did when he came in and took over for a system that was great under Jerry Kill, but then Coach Clays a little bit of turmoil. And PJ Fleck probably was the right voice to steer that boat. And Blake Cashman is going to join us. I'm excited about that. But I also want people to remember, you can download Locked On Sports Minnesota on Amazon Fire and Roku. That's Amazon Fire and Roku. Just search Locked On Sports Minnesota in your apps. You can download right there to your TV. You can watch our show. You can see me down here in beautiful, sunny Orlando, Florida. And we have a word from our sponsor.
Today's show brought to you by FanDuel, as it always is. March Madness is heating up. NBA coming down the stretch. If you're a new customer at FanDuel, you can get a no-sweat first bet, up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Download the FanDuel app. Safe, secure, very easy to use. There are so many different ways to bet, hundreds, in fact, on all your favorite leagues, all the games, all the lines, all the sports. Also, stack those bets up within the same game for a same-game parlay and a chance at massive payouts. Don't miss the chance to get that no-sweat first bet, up to $1,000 back in bonus bets when the first bet doesn't win or if it doesn't win. FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Make every moment more with FanDuel.
Well, now it's time for the Hanging with Ron Johnson segment. Excited about getting this guest on. This is a guy that I've known and watched play since he was in high school, played at Eden Prairie High School in Minnesota, went on to the Golden Gophers, was a high school safety receiver. And then became a weight room beast, played linebacker, ended up getting drafted to the NFL, going to the NFL as a linebacker, played for the Jets, Texans. When I think about Blake Cashman, I go all the way back to like Eden Prairie, I think versus like Totino Grace. And it was like the state finals or something. And this is a kid that had like athletic ability out the yin yang. High school coach, to be honest, I don't think ever truly used all his players for what they fully could do. But when it mattered the most, Mike Grant at Eden Prairie said, you know what, let me throw a couple deep balls to Blake Cashman and see if he can make a play for us. So I do remember that. So Blake, I want to thank you for joining me, man. But go back to those high school days, man. Like, why do you think you weren't used more as just an all around, like, give me the ball 10, 15 times a game on offense, let me go on defense? What do you think Mike Grant was so hesitant about in high school?
Well, first off, thank you for having me on the show. I was looking forward to this. And to answer your question, Mike Grant's philosophy is always play his best players on defense. I remember, I think, starting my sophomore year, I started begging him to play more offense, and he wasn't really hearing it. He kept preaching about how, hey, I'm going to play my best players on defense. It's about getting through the season. He wants to keep guys healthy. He runs, I think, a very different style high school football program than most coaches. I think my entire time in high school, we went full pads twice.
Wow.
He kind of carries this NFL philosophy where he wants to, take a lot of the physicality in practice and save it for the games because, as we know, a lot of times the best teams, the teams that go the farthest in playoffs are the healthiest teams. So he always wants his best players available and, he wants his best players on defense. But it wasn't until my senior year where he started exploring different options, putting me at receiver, like you said. And I had good athleticism and speed in high school where just run down the field and we're going to lob that ball up and go get it, make a play.
Yeah, no, I still remember those games. Carter Coughlin's dad, Bob, is a good friend of mine. So I started watching you guys probably around, I say probably you guys were sophomores. I had to be around your sophomore because I knew Carter. And then I know you were friends with him. I know Antoine Winfield had left and went to Texas, but he grew up playing with you guys. And then because of Vince Varpness, who was at the Gophers when I played, he was our GA. He was the head coach at Burnsville, so I knew about Kamal Martin. And then you guys all end up at the U of M together. What was that like, going to the U of M with a high school teammate and a guy in Antoine that you knew when you guys were kids?
It was a full circle moment, honestly, just because, we grew up together, we competed together, and to land at a Big Ten Division I school, Division I football program, it was pretty special just to, either continuing to build our relationships or reconnect when Antoine came back to Minnesota. But what's awesome about all that is just, the guys that grew up in Minnesota, played high school ball in Minnesota, to keep those guys in state. I feel like growing up, it was always hard to watch all this great talent leave, and then they're going to play at Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, and to be honest, as a Gopher alum, it made me sick to my stomach. So to keep guys like ourselves in Minnesota and help build that program up was very special, and it's very cool to look back because we made a lot of good memories together.
Yeah, and you were teammates in college with Eric Murray, and he was there with the Gophers. 2016 4th-round draft pick to the Kansas City Chiefs, now with the Houston Texans. You as well are with the Houston Texans, so you have another Gopher in that locker room. How much has that helped, especially, and you guys are on the same side of the ball as well, special teams, defense. How did that kind of help, landing in a spot with a guy that, you knew from Minnesota and played at Minnesota?
Well, he's always been somebody that's acted like a pro ever since day one. I met him my freshman year of college, and to go to a new state, new city, a new team where there's a lot of unfamiliarity, like to have someone I know, someone I've known for quite a long time, brings a lot of comfort. But he was somebody, that I leaned on and, would ask him a lot of questions, just, how was this organization ran? What are these coaches like? What do they want to see? So he was somebody that could answer those questions right away. He was a familiar face, and I call him the technician. That man, he does everything perfect. He's Mr. Fundamentals. So it's fun to watch him. And although we don't play the same position, he's the guy that's played a long time. He's played a lot of ball, and he's somebody I can learn from and continue to learn from.
Yeah, and now you have a guy in D'Amico Ryans as a head coach, coming to the Texans. But let's back up. You guys going into the game against the Colts, all you had to do was lose the game, and your organization has the #1 overall draft pick, Lovie Smith. We know he's not going to go down without a fight. What was that mindset like? Because I kind of got Eric Murray's take on it, but what was that mindset like the whole week, trying to drown out that outside noise of all the media saying that, like, oh, if they lose this game, they get the #1 pick, and if they win this game, they give the pick to Lovie Smith's Bears. How hard was it to drown out that outside noise, and some of it within your own building? Owners making comments about that, and GMs, having to address that. Like, yep, we know we have a chance to get the #1 pick. How was that as a group of players in the locker room trying to keep the outside out?
I felt like everybody handled it very well, did a good job at blocking out the noise. At the end of the day, it's just noise, and we're there to perform at the best of our ability. The coaches are there to coach at the best of their ability. And at the end of the day, whether you're a coach or a player, we're competitors, and nobody wants to go into a game like, hey, for the better of the organization and the future of this franchise, like we're going to purposely lose this game. So, what I saw was going into that week, we're one of the worst teams in the league. We've been hearing the noise, the media, fans, the league talking bad about us all year, but we wanted to finish the season off on a high note, and every coach, every player prepared that week to win that game and end our season with a W and on a good note.
Yeah, and so when you think about, ending a season, there came a time in your life where football could have been tougher. You could have had a harder battle. You guys are around the time where Coach Clays took over the program, and you had to protest pretty much to say, look, we're not playing until our teammates are treated the right way. Mm-hmm. And then, you guys had Coach Clays leave, and PJ Fleck came in, and you had to adopt a new system, new mantra, roll the boat, 217 words and all this other stuff. When you thought about that, when you go back to that time, kind of that weird transition year, all the crap off the field happening, playing in a bowl game, winning it for Coach Clays, and then having PJ Fleck come in, what do you remember most about that time?
Well, I'm not going to say it was easy. it's very difficult for players, especially players, that are becoming upperclassmen, to go through coaching changes, go through a culture change. And, if, in a way you kind of feel like your world's flipped upside down because, everything's changed. And the hardest part about that is when you completely take a staff away that you've been working with, those relationships mattered. And that time you spend with them, developing and growing as a player, as a person, that all matters. And it means something. And to have to embrace the change wasn't easy, but Coach Fleck came in and he asked everyone, to stick with him, believe in him, believe in what he's going to do for us and this football program, for the university, for the state of Minnesota. And, we just put our heads down and went to work. And, I'm somebody that likes to look at the positive in things. And, going back to those moments in college, in a way, I think it prepared me for the NFL. I'm going into my 5th season, but I've now had 4 different coaching staffs. Mm-hmm. So that change in college, I learned how to work through that and to develop new relationships and, mature those relationships with those coaches and different staff members. So I think it was a blessing. At first, when I was a sophomore, just, some 20-year-old punk, I thought it was very hard, very stressful, overwhelming. But when I look back at it, it was a blessing. And I think it helped prepare me in a big way for the NFL.
Yeah, and I remember back when I was in college, my sophomore year, I think, or junior year. I think sophomore, junior year, we had like a big scandal with off the field stuff, whether it was phone cards, whether it was players getting papers done by secretaries. There's a lot of stuff going on. Basketball had their issues with Clem Haskins and their staff doing the same thing, doing papers for players. And I always remember Glenn Mason doing what he could to shield us from the media, where it just came out on ESPN it was whatever. I forgot what they called it, but they just said, hey, all the players got suspended for 1 day. We took it as a team. And then we just missed like a little bit of money from the bowl game. And then we still all got to play, travel, and go to the bowl game. When you look back on, you guys, you were suspended at a time, but PJ Fleck kind of, you weren't his recruit. You weren't you weren't Rashad Bateman to him. Like, you weren't one of the guys he had to go personally sign. But he still took care of you guys. He still wanted to make sure you guys knew you're his players and that he's going to do everything as a dad to really put his best foot forward to keep you guys shown in the best light. When you look back on some of that from college and, right when you were leaving and then you left, go to the NFL, like, what did PJ Fleck mean to you in those moments?
Well, when I, sit here now and think about it, I think he did so much more than just developing a football player. He does so much with the football program and those players there that, helps him develop young men, become young professionals, regardless of what career path you pursue when you graduate and done with football. But he has a lot of philosophies and, I think I'm correct by saying this. He was a elementary school teacher or something like that.
Yep.
Coming out of college. So he does a lot of teaching to us players and the players that are there. And it doesn't even have to do with football, but that stuff is different. It's special, and it helps, a young man or a boy who's 18 years old, and by the time he leaves, he becomes a man. And there's still things today, challenges I face where I think back of things that PJ Fleck has told me or has told the team, and it still sticks with me today, and it helps get me through. When I was in my last season with the Jets in New York, I had a groin injury, and then I had a hamstring injury, and right when I came back, I got a groin injury. And as an athlete going through injuries, it's very frustrating. More than anything, it's a mental grind. And honestly, I was kind of in a dark place, but I thought of something PJ Fleck said, and it talks about just having gratitude and being thankful for the good, bad, everything in between, because whether something's good or bad happening, like, you can learn from it, you can grow from it. And he always talks about failing is growth, right? So I thought about those moments and those things that he was teaching me, and then on top of that, like I felt like a failure because I wasn't out there playing. But he always talks about just having the right peace of mind, like knowing that your work and what you're doing matters. And as long as every day you're getting up and putting your best foot forward, that you can be, pleased with the progress you're making. And that's what I had to do to get through that, was take each day as like a small goal to move forward. And it honestly helped me in great ways.
And you went to the New York Jets, Carter Coughlin, New York Giants. Again, you guys are friends. How often, because I know Carter's going to come on the show in probably like 2 weeks, but how often do you guys or did you guys actually get to connect, being so close?
When we were out there, as the season's going on, you're so busy. We weren't able to get together as much as I probably liked, but I remember one time after training camp preseason, kind of had some time off. We got together. I think we watched, was it the Gophers Ohio State game, opening up the college football season. So some of his teammates were there, and we just kind of grilled out and watched the game. It was a good time. But he's in Minnesota a lot in the off season when I'm here, so we connect all the time, stay in touch, and we've had such a long relationship, honestly, a lifetime friendship. So it's been great to kind of share a story with him and follow his professional career and all the success that's coming his way.
And when you think back to, we got two more before we jump into the Daily Three. This is Blake Cashman, former Gopher, now Houston Texan, drafted by the New York Jets. When you think back to the Gophers scandal, and we know what happened, 10 players were blamed, and then of course pretty much a lot of charges were dropped, a lot of players were exonerated. But Tracy Claeys was put in a tough position. Jerry Kill just left. He wasn't a head coach per se. He didn't have that head coach bravado, that head coach like plan. And I feel like PJ Fleck has a plan for a lot of things like that. When you look at PJ Fleck, if you were to go back in time and you could go back in the future with Michael J. Fox and PJ Fleck put in that situation, one, do you think players even end up in those situations the way PJ tries to teach now? And then two, how do you think PJ Fleck handles that?
I like to think that, guys wouldn't end up in that situation. I think he has an elite thing going there at Minnesota. But something that's always stuck with me, and I forget where, he got it from, but he used to always talk to us players about a great leader. When you have to make a tough decision, you need to gain all the information before making that decision. And it's okay to wait for the very last second to make that decision, because take all the time you need to get the information that's necessary to allow you to make the best decision. So, I think he would definitely have a plan, and he would, I think he would handle it as well as you could, just because that is a very sensitive subject and what happened. But something that you hinted on earlier, talking about Glen Mason and just, dealing with the media and the noise, is regardless of, anything that's going on with your team, like, it's important to stick together and lean on each other, because at the end of the day, like a football locker room, it's a family, it's a brotherhood. No matter where you go, guys talk about that. So, thinking about back on that moment and what happened with those guys, it's tough. It's challenging. There's so many different opinions and things being thrown out there. But you gotta love each other and work through those challenging situations together. And that's what's important.
Yeah, and when you think about the times with the Gophers, and then you were drafted by the New York Jets, you have no idea where you're going to spend at least the next 3 years of your life. When you think about a rookie contract, most rookies, in that first 3 years, they try to either re-up or get a new team. When you got drafted by the New York Jets, New York is New York, so never sleeps, Jay-Z, parties, blah, blah. But then also the Jets, tough media, a lot of, turmoil with both organizations, Jets and Giants, probably one of the most scrutinized organizations due to being in New York. How excited were you though when you got drafted by the Jets?
Oh man, it was like this weight being lifted off your shoulder. Going into the draft, I was so excited, and you hear all these projections, and you can't help yourself but think the best, right? Mm-hmm. But I just remember as the draft went on, and you're not hearing any buzz with your name, not getting the phone calls you want. You start getting stressed out, and you start worrying about all these different things that you can't control. The funny thing about that is I remember watching the draft, waiting for my name to be called, and I would say it was about 15 minutes. Couldn't have been more than 15 minutes before I got the call that I was being drafted. I was like, screw this. I'm turning the TV off. I'm going back to the University of Minnesota. I'm going back to campus. It's spring jam. I have a good time with my friends. Like, forget this. I was so stressed out. But my parents are just like, just take a deep breath, relax, like put in the work, you prepared. Something good could come out of it. And sure enough, I got the phone call, and I just felt like I could breathe again. But it was an amazing moment, just this, honestly, what was, the most special to me was just seeing the reaction of my family and close friends, people that have, been with me my entire life, and to share that moment and to see those emotions, something I'll never forget.
Well, we got the Daily 3 coming up. That's me, Sam, and Blake. We're going to have a little fun, little fast-paced question game. But make sure you remember, this episode is powered by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Just visit FanDuel.com/Locked On to make every moment more. And also, you can download the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on Amazon Fire and Roku. Just go to your TV, search apps, and you can download it. Just search Locked On Sports Minnesota, and it'll download right to your TV. You can get all of our videos, all of our shows. You can see Blake Cashman's beautiful face, and we have a word from our sponsors.
Thanks, Ron. Before we get back to the Daily 3, let me tell you about Built Bar. Delicious, nutritious treats that you can get in store now at Walmart and Sam's Club. Go to the pharmacy section, get the 4-bar box, get the 13-bar box. And what makes Built Bars so great? Not only are they good, but they're good for you. 100% real chocolate, amazing macros, 4 grams of sugar, and up to 17 grams of protein. Only 130 calories. And when you can get flavors like peanut butter brownie, double chocolate, coconut puffs, why wouldn't you load up on some Built Bars today for that delicious, nutritious treat in store, Walmart or Sam's Club, or online at built.com. Still use the promo code LOCKEDON15 for 15% off.
Well, here we go. It's 3 questions, 3 minutes each. Take it away, Sam.
All right, Blake. I wanted to ask you back to those Eden Prairie days. Take me through a game, a memorable game from your high school career. I know Eden Prairie played in a lot of big games. What's one that stands out to you?
State championship game my senior year. We were down, I believe, 2 scores at halftime. A lot of my teammates looked like, they were giving up. I could see the quit on their face. And me and some of the other leaders on our team, just kind of rallied the guys in the locker room, like, come on, we've been here before, let's go. And we came out and kind of hit them in the mouth right away in the 3rd quarter. And we started coming back, and we ended up finishing that game. But my favorite moment was I was at receiver, and I was put out there to block and ran a sweep to the left side of the field. And I remember I had this little corner on me, put him in the ground, got up. I saw a running back got around the edge, saw safety screaming downhill. He was a good tackler, probably the fastest player on the field. And I came and, at that time it was a legal block to take a shot. I took him out, and I look up, and our running back's going down the sideline for like a 60-yard touchdown. And I remember I was so happy and so proud of our team because I knew in that moment we were going to win the game. And I think there was still like 2 minutes left, and I started breaking down in tears while the play was still going on. I was sitting on my knees, watching him go in the end zone, and I'll never forget that moment. I was so happy and so proud of everyone.
Was that against Totino Grace?
It was against Totino.
Okay, so that was the game. Yeah, that was the game. I think it was on. I forgot what cable plays your games for high school in Minnesota, but
45 something.
45.
Yeah, I think so. Yep. Yeah. So I just happened to be. I don't know if it's because of Carter maybe, but I just happened to turn it on. I was watching it, and I'm like, oh man, like this is Totino Grace has it, and and then all of a sudden EP fight because was Grantham the quarterback?
Yeah.
Yep. Because I had met Grantham. I forgot where I met him at, but I met him and his dad. And so, because that was the year when Carter and him played basketball, and then Bob Coughlin and Grantham's dad got into it at the Hopkins game because you played basketball too, right?
Yeah. I remember all that.
Oh yeah, definitely. So those memories for me too. Like I have that burned into my head just because of Grantham. I remember Carter and his dad. Coach Flom. Just told me all those stories and blah, blah. And, Bob was like, yeah, we had to stop Grantham's dad from trying to attack Coach Flom because he was mad Grantham got benched against Hopkins. But, and he's a good basketball player. I know him and AJ Stone are still friends, but I was always surprised he didn't really pursue football because there's a lot of 6'3", 6'4" basketball players. There's not a lot of 6'3", 6'4" quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. And I'd be interested to see like him now in today's quarterback world with the RPO, how high he would get recruited out of Eden Prairie. Because I don't know, Mike Grant probably would never run the RPO anyway, because it's going to be unbalanced left, right. He's just going to run the ball down your throat. So, but no, that definitely was memorable for me. What you got next, Sam?
Yeah, Ron alluded to this. I've always wanted to ask some New York guys this question. When you go to play in New York, Blake, they're known for this tough media, very critical. Is that something you're aware of as a player when you're in the city, or are you pretty much insulated from all that noise?
Oh no, I mean we got there. I mean the Jets hit the rookie class and any new players on it day one, talking about the media. They do a little classroom session on how to handle it. I definitely experienced some of it, but it's kind of like everywhere. Guys that are more of the face of the team, like the quarterbacks or guys with the ball in their hand, like they seem to get it the worst. But if you're on one of those, if you're on the roster, if you're on one of those teams, like you're going to get some of the tough, slander and talking smack that a lot of the media and fans will give you on a weekly, daily basis.
I'm about to say, I've heard New York's media can be tough. You watch the Knicks, you watch a lot of that stuff with the Nets and how it's just nonstop. And no matter how bad the Jets are, I hate to say it, they always are still in the top of the media. Like they find ways to put them up there. And Sauce Gardner is helping them big time now. And then hopefully Aaron Rodgers goes and helps them and gets out the NFC North. But I got to throw a little audible in there. Omaha, when you think about the Jets, because I have another question about the New York side of the Jets. Have you met Joe Namath?
I have.
So what was that like?
Dude's a legend. It's somebody walks in the room, he's gonna grab your attention right away. But he's around the facility a lot.
Okay.
At practices, he'll pop into meetings. He has a all access pass around the New York Jets grounds, but he's still a legend in the city. Anywhere he goes, he's still Broadway Joe. He's the man.
Did he show up with like a fur coat and a cigar, or was he kind of laid back?
No, he dressed the nines when he every time he was at the facility, he would have some like suit or blazer on, but it wasn't just like an all black suit. Like it
Right.
had different patterns, it had colors that popped. Like he still wants to, walk in the room, have that swagger. Like, hey, I just entered the room.
What you got next, Sam? Last one.
Great. Yeah, last one. Ron, you can probably answer this one too. I wanted to know of a professional coach in your career so far, Blake, who's had a big impact on you. Could be head coach, coordinator, position coach, or anybody else.
Ooh, I had to go with my guy, Brant Boyer, special teams coordinator with the Jets. That's my guy. We still stay in touch to this day. He was somebody that I think played 10 years in the NFL, was a linebacker, looked at it as undersized, which a lot of people in the media say I'm undersized, but he was a good special teams player, and he knows a lot about football, a lot about, his players too, which I think what makes him, such a great coach and why he's had success coaching special teams. But, he's somebody that's very transparent, always genuine, real with you, no matter if it's good or bad. Sometimes you're going to hear something from that, you don't want to hear. It doesn't sound good. But at the end of the day, like, honesty is the best policy. And, every player just got mad respect for him.
Yeah, for me, I have to say rest in peace. Wide receivers coach for the Bears, Daryl Drake. Coach Drake was probably – because with the Ravens, it was more of tooth and nail of being, having to play early as a rookie, having to start, getting hurt, being forced to play because we only had 4 receivers because we ran the crap out the ball. So, didn't have time to have surgery. And so it was just a different experience going to the Bears, having to earn my way, end up playing tight end and receiver. And I'll never forget, Coach Drake would always talk to me every morning about hey, this is what we're doing with the receivers. So you just go to the tight ends today. He was really instrumental in allowing me to grow, because at that time, I think I got to 247 pounds. And he was allowing me to grow into that role where he didn't hold it against me if I missed a receivers meeting, because he knew I was doing the right thing with the tight ends meeting or I was with the special teams. So he made it really easy. And also because I didn't know this, but Lovie Smith told me later that somebody from the Ravens had told the Bears that I had an attitude problem. And so week 1, I remember Lovie telling me hey, we're going to start you at H back, which basically is the opposite side tight end. But is it all behind you? And I didn't understand what it was. And then Coach Drake actually kind of broke it down. Look, man, this is what happened. And so even understanding that, how I'm responsible for my facial expressions, I'm responsible for how I look when somebody tells me something, because I can't control how somebody takes what I say or do or look, but I can control how I look, say, and do. So I learned early that, that from Coach Drake, look, man, always have a smile, always say, yes, coach. If they want you there at 8:50, be there at 8:40, all that kind of little stuff from Coach Drake. So, rest in peace to Coach Drake, but he was extremely instrumental in that. And then also becoming a coach with the Colts, and then now in the media now, breaking down film, doing the analyst stuff. Coach Drake, learning to play tight end, learning the linebackers in the box, learning an over front versus an under front, all that. I didn't have to learn as a receiver. So he was huge in helping me understand all that stuff. Picking out the Mike backer and understanding why the tight end is hot if this guy comes. And so, it was Drake and I, man, we spent numerous nights together in the meetings, just trying to catch up and figure out all that stuff. So he was huge in that. But I want to thank Blake Casper for joining me on the Ron Johnson Show. Blake, like I said, I always love to give guests, man. I've had Tommy Harris on. We've sat down with Mel Blount, Hall of Famer. We've had a lot. We've had, Adam Thielen, Josh Metellus, and I always like guys to kind of write a letter to themselves. And I know you probably grew up in this, so you remember Back to the Future. And Back to the Future, Michael J. Fox, there's a scene where he goes back, he finds an almanac, and then they can change the future, blah, blah. Or Hot Tub Time Machine, that might be more of your movie. Hot Tub Time Machine, you can go back and buy Google stock. But if you could put yourself in a hot tub time machine and go back to 4-year-old Blake, 2-year-old Blake, 20-year-old Blake, whoever, 15, 18, and give Blake some advice. And not only just for Blake, but anybody else in your situation, what would you say to yourself?
2 things. First, easy. I would tell myself, when you get around, the age, a teenager, when you can start, lifting, training, to get in the gym, the weight room, and get in there often. I feel like I didn't get in the weight room and didn't take that serious enough, until later in high school when I was an upperclassman. But I felt like, looking back, if I would have done that a lot sooner, it would have helped me in getting recruited. But times are different, and there's so much more now. So I understand that, but definitely get in the weight room. And then something that I struggled with when I was younger, all the way up until probably got to college, was just having confidence and believing in myself. So I would tell my younger self to believe that every time you step on the field, the court, whatever it is, you're competing in, that you're the best player out there, and don't be afraid to make the call, take the shot, whatever it is, because nowadays I think there's so much opinions floating out there from people that honestly don't even matter. They're not even involved in what you're doing, but they got something they need to say, and I think when you're younger, that stuff's going to affect you a lot more, and you don't know how to handle it because you're not prepared to handle it, and you shouldn't have to handle it. So just telling that kid to believe in yourself, and when it comes down to it, bet on yourself. And I figured that out, but I figured it out later than I wish I did, and it turned out to be a good thing for me.
Well, I want to thank you for joining me on the Ron Johnson Show. I want to thank Sam Ekstrom for all the hard work he continues to do. And remember, people, if you want endless Vikings talk with local experts, make sure you subscribe to the Locked On Sports Minnesota YouTube channel, where you can find all of our videos, all of our shows, instant podcasts after every single Vikings game, and all the Vikings press conferences delivering the biggest news of the week. And make sure you like our videos and leave your thoughts in the comment section. I want to thank you. Have a great day.